All right. Good
Thanks, Lance.
morning. Good evening, everyone. This is the meeting of the Bylaws Committee. I'm Sandra Unger, the chair. And
Or Joanne Rubino, chair.
Veronica Castro, member.
David.
David Levitt, I'm not a member of the committee, I'm a member of the community board.
All right, and Cynthia.
Cynthia.
Right, I will read the conduct statement as quickly as possible. Any action or behavior that disrupts or interferes with Community Board 11 business will not be tolerated during any community board meeting and may result in the individual or individuals being asked to leave. If the action or behavior continues, this may be considered disturbing the peace and the appropriate authorities may be summoned. If the meeting is held remotely, the person may be muted or expelled for the remainder. Repeated violations by the same person or group of people may result in further action by the community board. All public speakers must address the full board or the committee with their concerns. Electioneering for a position other than an officer of Community Board 11 is prohibited. Engaging in acts of violence, including threats, are grounds for immediate suspension of the right to attend meetings, pending review by the Ethics and Disciplinary Committee. Respect the equality, diversity, and privacy of all persons by respecting and valuing differences of culture and opinions. Refrain from unpleasant or disparaging remarks and other actions. Abstain from all forms of harassment by actively encouraging it. Disseminating false information is prohibited. All right, we have the minutes from I don't know where the minutes are from last time. However, we are going to go and look at the bylaws proposals that have been on the agenda or have been discussed for a very, very long time, as nauseam almost. All right, the first one is Article 5, Section 3. All right, and that deals with committees and gallery or standing. Wait a minute. I thought we wanted Article 5, Section 3. That's, I think he has the wrong thing. Give me a moment. I think we were going to talk about the gallery section.
Yeah.
Section 13.
That's the next one.
Yeah, I'd like to do this one first, if I may. Can I go out of order, David? Or must I go?
I'm not a member of the committee.
All
I'm
right, I'm
happy
just
to wait
asking.
until you get
All right.
whatever you get to.
The one I want to get to first is with the gallery session, because that has been the one that has to have, or should have been decided a long
Sandy,
time
can you hear
ago.
me?
And
Yeah, we can hear you.
yes, and the section.
Hold on, Jeremy's trying to say something.
You want me to
Yes.
explain, Sandy?
Go ahead.
That's something that Ryan expressed concern about. It was, I think, whatever. I mean, he didn't talk about it. He did talk about it. I talked about it briefly at the last full board meeting. But if you want to come back to that, do. I mean, it looks like Ryan is maybe on his way to you. I don't know.
He's
online.
yeah.
He's online though.
Which one was that? At Section 5, at Article 5?
The first bullet point
All right,
related to the bylaw.
Article 5, Section 3. All right, then we'll go in order. I'm sorry, but we must get, all right, Article 5, Section 3 is, we want to change the wording slightly to the chair or co-chair of each standing committee shall preside at committee meetings and at public hearing conducted by the committee, and shall file all committee reports with the community board. The chair, and it's really like vocabulary changing, shall determine the time, date, place, and agenda of all meetings and hearings, except hearings held pursuant to Europe. Each standing committee shall have the power to adopt its own rules of procedures as long as such rules do not conflict with these bylaws or the charter. Standing committees shall meet only when they have business to conduct or when the committee chair or executive board determines that there is a need to discuss items of importance to the community. All committee members are responsible for material presented to the committee. So I think the changes in the wording are fine with me. Does anyone have anything to say?
Oh, I think it's fine.
Do we make?
So there's not, that wasn't, so if I can,
Jeremy, you're not coming in very
Not
clear.
coming in very clear.
I know, I'm driving and I'm almost,
Oh,
you hear me now?
yeah,
A little better.
a little better.
All right, so I know one thing that Ryan was proposing with that is, I think that's the right section, I think I got it right, was to get rid of the sign-up slips for trains. But I know when I'd spoken to Cynthia about it, she wasn't so hot on that, so that's why a little bit in limbo.
No,
you're I know we don't tend to do,
We're doing the first
Hold
one
on,
first.
hold on. Jeremy, the one that's listed first on the agenda has to do with the changing of chair to, chairperson to chair regarding the committees. It has nothing to do with the gallery slip.
Nothing.
no.
That's
Yes, that's
Yes,
what's
did
on
I
the
click
agenda.
what it is. That's what we're reading.
Article 5, Section
okay.
3.
So it has nothing to do with public hearings.
No.
No, it's just really changing some of the wording from chairperson to chair, co-chair to,
No,
That's
that's
what
not,
it-
that's
that's what-
nothing. That's what,
No, that's what it
we
is.
did that.
The only thing it says is about, the chair shall determine the date, time, place, and agenda of all hearings and meetings except the hearings held pursuant to ULURP. That's the only really thing is mentions there. If you're talking about the slips, that's not in this section.
it's not in this section.
And maybe I put the wrong thing for the agenda. I mean,
Let me see if I can.
because
find what you're talking
because when it comes to the language and changing chairperson to chair, we did that already.
Well, no, this is about who can call a committee meeting. Remember that
Yeah.
there's that amendment in the bylaws that had gone unnoticed. That
Okay.
was finally added about who can call a meeting and whether or not it's only when business, da.
Yeah, it's the second point,
It's the second point,
Article 6, Section 13.
right, and that deals with the gallery session, and that's the one that I wanted to get to. So
So we did the first one,
One-
so there's no,
I make a motion to
we
accept,
should do all
Wait,
motions
wait,
after the
yeah.
gallery session.
okay,
Right, but there's no other discussion on the first point?
all right.
No discussion.
Okay. The second one is Article 6, Section 13, dealing with the gallery session. And do you have it up?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
right there.
part of it, okay. All right, each gallery session speaker at full board meetings shall receive an initial 2 minutes of uninterrupted speaking and may respond to at most 4 questions or comments from board members without any time restrictions. The presiding officer of the full board may grant any speaker up to 3 additional minutes. All right, now we're up to B. Each
Well, further speaking.
further speaking time must be approved by a majority vote of the community board. And that's something we've always done.
Yes.
So that's goes without saying. All right, B, each person wishing to speak at full board meeting shall complete a registration slip, which shall be kept on file at the community board. The slip shall include the speaker's name, organization, if any, and the subject matter they wish to address. Completion of the slip obligates the speaker to comply with Section 12 of those bylaws the community board conduct. All right, for football meetings, gallery session speakers must register with,
So we have to fix that.
right,
Yes. we
this
have to
is where we're
say-
gonna fix it.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Must register with board staff, and here's Ryan, at least 36 hours in advance of the meeting. You also wanted to add to that and additional speakers may register up until the time of the board meeting,
that would be under B.
under B.
Yeah, I don't think changing C negates B.
It does.
It does, it says must register.
It does.
It absolutely does.
They conflict, but I don't think it negates
It
it.
negates it.
I think maybe.
Why would it,
Because you look for all.
Should, you could say should register, may register, how about may? May register.
Well, I
Because-
think the goal of that was to be more structured. I mean, we've been having this discussion forever.
that's why.
It's about being more structured and having advance notice and being able to prepare appropriately for the board meetings. So, yes, the goal in that language is to say you have to register at least 36 hours in advance. Period, end of story. That would be no in-person slips.
Right, however, what we want to add to that is other speakers may speak at the gallery session by registering up until the time of the board meeting.
Why?
So they will, because we have to give people
Wanna keep-
in the community a chance to speak. They may not have a computer, they may not be computer literate. Maybe something came up 20 minutes before the meeting began, which is important. So we have to give them the right to speak.
I mean, legally, we don't have to.
We don't have to.
Well,
but-
that's
didn't think that we-
We just got-
One second, order please.
The only way we're gonna get through this meeting is we give everybody the respect to speak. So Ryan, please go ahead.
For things that come up in the interim, like I emailed about this, you've all
Yeah,
seen it.
no, but-
So about things that come up in the interim, you could always have a language in there that says subject to a vote by the board or subject to the chair's
Discretion.
approval, discretion, yeah. As far as giving people a chance to speak, people still have a chance to speak. You don't have to register on the computer. You can call, you can come into the office. You can do it at any committee meeting, but I think the real point is why do people want to speak at the full board? They want to speak at the full board because they want to bring attention to a matter that needs something done about it. It's not just to stand up there and talk. The way it's worded right now, my son could come in and talk about Pokemon for 2 minutes. And if I ask him one question, he has unlimited time to talk about Pokemon until, I mean, legally, the way our bylaws are written until the end of the meeting, until we cut them off. So if someone comes in here with an issue, the full board is not where it's going to get decided. How many of you went home after the last full board meeting and looked up some of these issues that people brought up, or the full board meeting before? That's great. You're not on the board. You're not doing the work. The committee members are not doing the work. So if you go to the committee, that's where the real work gets done. The full board is to validate the work that's done in the committee. Bringing these up at full board doesn't get the work done, and then people look at us like we're useless and don't do anything.
It's not our experience, though.
We-
Our experience
Yeah,
is that
Joanne.
people bring it. Yeah, people bring things up at the full board that sometimes we don't know about. We don't know about it. Maybe they didn't think to come to the committee meetings, that they didn't think to call, but it's something that they want to bring up and they maybe just found out about it, or they found out about it for somebody else, and it gives them the opportunity and to get an answer right away. So I don't know.
An answer, well, excuse me, Joanne, an answer could be, you know what, why don't you come and speak before the committee, now that you brought it up?
We've done that.
And we've done that,
We've done.
but we're giving them the right to do it. It seems as if we're taking something away which has always been given, and I don't think that's right. And
I
I mean,
think part of wanting people to preferably, I mean, I'm not saying we should take away the slips completely, but to preferably register in advance, so when people are standing in front of us telling us what the issue is, we don't sit there with blank faces and say, okay, we'll get back to you. At least this way, we could have it ahead of time, be able to look up the issue and find out an answer for them, instead of just going, okay, we'll look it up and we'll get back to you. It gives us a little head start. That being said, I don't think we should totally get rid of the slips. I think there should be some kind of like a compromise of some sort, that if there's an issue that came up that suddenly is beyond the 36 hours and it needs to be addressed, that they should be able to speak. And again, I think that should be at the chair's discretion, whether or not time permits or how you feel. They could fill out the slip and you could review them and see if time permits for them to do it. But it should be on a matter of something that's come up. If they don't, and like Ryan said, if they don't have access to a computer, they have access to a phone, they could walk into the office. Just means that we have to make sure that staff is available for them, so that way they could sign up. I don't think we should get rid of the slip completely, though.
so we're in agreement that there should be slips available. But
I'm
how
not,
they,
I'm not agreement into that. No, I think the slip should go away. I think that when we get into this area of, I think if we have some slips available and we say that some people will give the opportunity to some people, then my question would be, well, who are those some people, and who is making the judgment call to say that those select people have an issue that is important enough for it to be brought up? And not to put you on a spot, Cynthia, but I think that puts a lot of undue pressure on Cynthia that I don't think that she wants, nor is it needed. If we're going to agree that people need to sign up 36 hours in advance, that should be the rule. Other than that, then I think like it shouldn't be it shouldn't be an in between. And just so that I'm clear, it feels like I'm hearing that there are still multiple opportunities for people to make it. There are multiple opportunities available for people to make it known that they would like to speak at the full meeting, either phone call, email, go into the office. I'm still just a little confused with all of these mediums that are provided to folks so that they have the opportunity to speak. No one's silencing anybody. It's actually asking people to be thoughtful enough ahead of time to sign up, so that way you actually have some. If you are taking the time and attention to sign up 36 hours in advance to speak, then I'm coming to that meeting with the understanding that what you have to say is really important because you put the time and effort into it. That isn't to say that something comes up and not to say that there aren't important issues that come up on any given day where someone might need to speak to it. But I feel like that's also why we have the office. That's also why we have Jeremy. If something is that pressing, they can call the office and say, hey, district manager, someone just did XYZ. I really want to make sure that someone is aware of this. Can you bring this to the executive board, or can it go to whatever, committee that is necessary so that it can be hashed out there? So I just feel like this dancing around this idea of like, oh, we're silencing people. No, we're not. That's not happening. And I agree with you, Veronica, sorry. It gives people the opportunity. It gives us the opportunity to be prepared. That's it for now. Sorry for being late.
Thanks, Sears.
thank you. So what I see is we have to come up with some kind of compromise. So if they don't fill out a slip, they still have time to call up the office. Leave either talk to Harriet, Jeremy, or Chris, or if no one is there, leave a message on, we do have a message unit or part saying, I would like to speak. No one is there. Please get back to me, letting me know that you have gotten this message.
That would, I don't know. I don't know.
That
I
would be
still
a
think there
compromise.
should be something available.
Well, that
makes
is.
no, because that's the same thing. That's the same thing.
Yeah, they could call up.
6 hours.
No, we're not saying 30. They could call up in 24 hours. They could call up 12 hours in advance. They could call up at 12 noon on the day of the meeting and say, something just came up. I'm calling. I would like a chance to speak.
Then why have 36 hours at all?
Because evidently they want to list it on the agenda, the people who are going to speak. That was what we were once told, that they would be on the agenda, so they would not be listed on the agenda, but Cynthia or whoever is, in charge of that meeting would have notification that these people called in. That would be, I think, a fair compromise.
So no slips, you're saying?
If no one wants the slips. But that means the office staffs have to check the phone messages, etc., and get back to the person.
Which they do. I have to say,
Right.
my emails are, I have a full-time job, and between my full-time job and the flurry of emails that I get on a daily basis, things that we hear at full board and things that we don't hear about in full board, constituent issues. They come to the office on a daily basis. And, either Jeremy, Harriet, Chris, they're always CCing me on responses and forwarding them to the appropriate agencies. And so the work is being done. People are coming to us with their concerns. And even I will, send Jeremy a text, hey, I saw this thing here today, like, who do we call? And he's on it. So, I have to agree with the air. I think that for me, it's a matter of structure and being organized. It keeps us accountable, and it keeps, everyone kind of on a stable, even keel. That's
So then what would be the best compromise? My thinking was, yes, you have the 36 hours to be on the
Suggested.
agenda.
Yeah.
However, you still have an opportunity to call in or speak to someone, leave a message, etc. And that will be relayed to Cynthia or whoever, conducting that meeting. And they will come after the people who signed up 36 hours in advance.
So I guess for C, it would be, the gallery session speakers it's suggested that gallery session speakers must register with the board staff, not must, but register with the boards at 36 hours is suggested. But if there is an emergent issue, that it could be up to the time of the meeting. As long
Right.
as the
As long as it's relayed.
as long as the people are able to contact the board staff. I mean, I don't know.
Jer has his hand up.
Dier, you're on.
Can you hear me? So I guess my question was, just going back to what you were saying, if people call in the day of or less than 36 hours, if it's that pressing enough for the people in the office, why couldn't it just be added as new business item? That way, if it's leaving it to the discretion of the office staff to say, okay, this is important enough in this moment today that it should be brought up, they can bring it up during new business. Otherwise, it can just go to the proper committee that would handle that issue anyway. Again, that way, no one's being silenced, but it's being handled in a matter that feels more appropriate than I'm just going to say it right now in this space without, like Veronica was saying, us having enough time to properly prepare for what it is that they want to talk about.
The only problem with that is that people are, let me just get my thoughts together.
Jeremy.
I don't know, I have a problem with that because I think that people, I don't know, I do think they will, it's a matter of optics, and also the gallery session is not during new business, so we would have to tweak that. We don't have people from the gallery session speaking at the end of the meeting during new business.
Right, and at that point, many people have left.
I think you misunderstood what I said. It's not that the person, it's the issue that's being brought up. If the issue is important enough to be brought up, then it can be brought up in new business. The person doesn't necessarily need to be recognized. If the person really wants to be recognized, then I think that they need to register 36 hours in advance. If the issue is the most important thing, then I think that the issue itself could be brought up in new business if it needs to be. Otherwise, it should be pushed to the committees that are going to be most likely able to handle that issue. So, like, even with the optics thing that you're talking about, Joanne, like, I'm actually in line with you with this. If the optics is just for a person to get up in front of a group of people to make their voice be heard, that's a way. But if you're gonna do that, my opinion is you care enough to sign up 36 hours in advance. If it is an emergency, if it's something that needs to be handled immediately and we want someone in the community board to know about it, then I'm not gonna wait for the community board to make that known. I'm gonna probably let it known as soon as I can. And I think that's for me what the issue is that like we're it's like not that we're talking about apples and oranges, but if an issue is really important, why am I gonna wait for the day of? I can contact Jeremy. I can contact multiple people on the board if I, have a relationship with them to sort of to voice my opinion in that regard. If it's not that important and it can wait, then sign up 36 hours in advance. That's
Jeremy has his hand up.
All right, Jeremy. Jeremy, you have your hand up?
Yeah, sorry, my internet connection, even though I'm home, I'm not driving anymore. Internet connection spotty. So I just want to be clear because you were talking about, so the 36-hour rule that's on the bylaws currently, that was enacted during COVID because if you may recall, the first few months, if not year of COVID was a mess, right? It was about until we got our act together, right? And then it just stuck because it made sense. The board did empower me with allowing for exceptions. That wasn't written into the bylaws, but it was very clear. The rationale was that I was allowed to make exceptions. And my policy at the time was one per meeting. And I can tell you all the regulars, whether it was
What just happened?
Hold on.
Jeremy, they didn't make the mark cut off and I put it on mine anyway.
All right, you broke up a little bit at the last few seconds, Jeremy. No, you're still breaking up.
All right, so
That's a little better.
Yes. Are you talking? Yeah. You're breaking up.
No, breaking up.
Nope, can't hear you.
in there in first place. So you keep on.
Okay.
All right, well, I'll come back to me. How about that?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see if there's anybody else who has.
Is there anyone else? So we still have not really come to a compromise or a decision. We have to do something.
I mean, the language that makes sense to me, Veronica, can go back to the for full board meetings, gallery session speakers must register with board staff at least 36 hours in advance of the meeting. Any speakers who registered after that period are subject to, I mean, if it's okay with you, the chair's discretion or the board's discretion. I think the chair's discretion probably makes the most sense. It's not as onerous.
Are you okay with making that determination, Cynthia?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so then B would be struck. And then it would just be C saying.
Well, that's
for
what we
full
have. to
board
decide.
meetings, right, gallery session speaker must register with board staff 36 hours in advance of the meeting. However, and what was
Right.
the,
Any speakers who
Any
registers after 36 hours are subject to the chair's discretion.
now that could be in person when they come to the meeting or the hours before. I
Well,
mean, that's also when people show up, something
All
has
right.
happened,
All
what
right.
happens to those people?
Subject to the chair's discretion.
Ah.
Yeah, I mean, the
Well,
registration slip.
Through the
is
chair's
still
discretion, so that would like,
applicable in all ways of registering, right? The registration slip is a piece of paper, but it's also the online form. It's also the staff filling out a piece of paper when they call in, anything, or when they walk in.
And will they fill out that paper too when they attend the meeting too? Will
Yeah,
people
yeah.
have the right to speak at the meeting? I just wanted to know. I know I'm late.
yeah, Joanne, that would then give them the right to fill out until the meeting begins.
Okay.
Yeah,
To
and
request
and
time, but as the chair.
Request doesn't guarantee.
It doesn't
Right.
guarantee,
doesn't guarantee, but at least it's there and it's at the discretion
Of the chair,
of the chair.
which I'm sure if it's a reasonable request, it would probably not be.
It's not a problem.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, not Pokemon.
Right.
Now here's, if 10 people show, and these are all hypothetical, or 7 people show up at 6:45 wanting to speak and now I have to
I have
say.
an answer for you.
Go ahead.
The 7 people, you tell them, okay, you are 7 of you, you have one issue.
What if they?
No, I'm
Oh,
not
you
even
mean
talking
that's
about
not-
just at 7 different issues
Yeah.
and decided, you know what, I couldn't, didn't, whatever. I didn't sign up 36 hours in advance. I didn't call the office early this morning, but I'm here now and I'd like to speak. Now I have to sit and
It,
sort through those concerns in real time, which then takes me away from the meeting. I don't know if there should, I don't know.
See, the thing is, if they just submit the slips, it goes as it always was, and there's no discretion to be had. These people are just gonna speak,
I have a.
and you don't have any issues.
Are we
telling
gonna
people that.
continue with the public hearing prior to the full board meeting? Then those who don't register 36 hours in advance can speak at the public hearing.
Oh.
You know, they come, they sign the slip and they can speak at the public hearing. And then only those registered 36 hours in advance would be able to speak at the full board. At least the people, if they sign in,
Right.
we're gonna still have the public hearing, then at least they have a forum where they can speak.
Right.
We just have to ask people to come a little earlier, meaning the board to
Yeah.
come a little earlier. So, you know, if there's questions, we have people from all the different committees that can answer questions.
It makes
That's
sense.
just a
it makes
suggestion.
sense.
So that.
That does make sense.
Okay.
Okay, so how do we put that in?
All right. That's
It's
good.
already there, right? Because the public hearing is in there.
Yeah,
Yes.
So
But
if
have
we
to-
keep this in here, do we want to change it
To say,
to say, each person wishing to speak at the public hearings shall complete a registration slip? Because if we say full board, then it's basically they're allowed to speak at the full board.
all right, so
Right.
that's a good compromise.
Okay.
The public
Okay.
hearing is already up there and you
Yeah,
have to register
alright.
for that as well.
You have to register and you can register.
So it's
right
redundant.
there.
yeah, good, okay. that
So-
makes sense.
B is fine. B
Yeah.
doesn't have to change. I don't
Well-
think.
Except full board meeting, you say public hearing, right?
The public hearing already has that, already has a bit about registration. I think that B is fine. Like I said, the registration slip doesn't necessarily mean that specific piece of paper at the full board meeting.
You speak at the, all right, okay, so we can leave. We can
Right,
basically
or
leave.
they, once they fill out the slip, they could be told, this, you know, you could also speak at the gallery session right now, or when, you know, before the
Well,
full.
no, not both.
No.
Hold on, Jeremy has his hand up.
All right, Jeremy,
And then I would like to add,
Yeah, Dear should go first. He's had his hand up before me.
oh, you didn't, but okay,
I didn't see it, sorry.
I
Derek.
didn't see it.
it's
Yeah,
okay.
he put it
I'm
down. He
just
had it up.
I'm just curious with, I think we're treading back into the waters that we were already in. And we're asking board members, just so that I'm clear, we're asking everyone now to show up 15 minutes early or earlier than what has been the norm so that they can participate in the gallery.
No.
Public
public hearing.
Look here,
Participate in the public hearing session, which is before the actual meeting itself. Is just, that's my first question, correct?
yeah,
That's correct.
And then the time limit. So say in that instance, we have 9 people show up in that, or how are we determining of the 9? Is it just first come, first is able to speak until that 15 minutes is exhausted?
no, they're given 2 minutes to speak.
Minutes each.
2 minutes
Uh,
each.
But then, so if 9 people showed up, we
That's
started
18.
45, so that's 18 minutes. My issue is the time. And how much time are we devoting to this public hearing for people to be able to make? Because now I just feel like, well, why not just come to the gallery session?
All
Can
right.
I,
Go ahead,
Okay.
Ryan.
Ryan,
So the point behind the public hearing, we're required by the charter to hold a public hearing.
Got it.
In the past, it has been understood, although looking at all of the definitions that the city and state have put out, this is not actually the case. It's been understood that a public hearing had to be in relation to some specific project,
Which right.
which is not actually true. It doesn't have to be that way. But
Okay.
so we have to hold one. We generally haven't been holding one. There was an audit of boards done, and it was found that most boards don't hold a public hearing because everyone has this understanding that it has to be on a specific issue. And you're not going to hold a public hearing on, well, I think I need a stop sign at X intersection, because it's kind of silly. There are some things that we hold public hearings for regularly, but this is a way to have the public hearing where people can come and talk on things that are sort of outside the normal scope of business or outside the scope of business that we're dealing with, and speak sort of ad hoc. And so we're fulfilling our charter obligation. We're giving people this other chance to speak. And we don't all have to be there. I do think that it's good to have someone from each committee there so that we can address what comes up, but everyone doesn't have to be there for a public hearing.
We could alternate.
Yeah.
The committee
Right.
can decide on who's gonna be there for that particular month. They could alternate a person to represent the committee.
Well, that was sort of the idea and the thought process that went into that leadership when we
and we've been
started
talking,
doing it.
I just got one more follow-up question, and then I think
and then we gotta get Jeremy, because
So can people speak at both then? So say I have an issue, and going back to what I think Joanne said, if it's a matter of just really having their voice be heard, I want to come speak at the public hearing because I feel like I want to, but I've also signed up for the gallery, and I know that there's going to be more people there. For us as a board, are we saying, yeah, that's fine, you can speak at this, you can speak to the same issue at both the public hearing and the gallery session?
you're
I love it, but yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we can do that, because it's not gonna happen very often.
Okay, then no more questions included.
Somebody comes and we have, as Dear said, 9 people, and we're going overtime and we see that somebody's listed on both for the same subject matter, we can ask them not to speak at the public hearing because we now have them already listed for the full board, and that could be a way to help with the time.
okay.
Sounds good.
So we could leave B and maybe just tweak C a little,
With what we had said before.
right? But I think I think it should be clear in B or C about the public hearing, about the opportunity to speak in the public hearing, because it's not really clear in those two.
Sandy, Jeremy has his hand
All
up.
right, Jeremy,
Yeah, because I'm
Jeremy?
gonna have to draft these, so I want to be clear on what you're proposing. So what about A? Was there a determination on A?
just the wording, we didn't even discuss it, just
No.
changing, no.
We discussed it, but we're okay with it. We haven't
We're
voted on
okay
it
with
yet.
A.
There's no change to A.
Well, I mean, Ryan did bring up a concern that I think is actually a really good point. You know, if somebody wants to arguably filibuster us and speak for 24 hours about Pokemon, they probably legally could based on what I was
Limit
reading.
the.
There are limits,
Yeah.
We can limit that.
we could
Because
limit,
we don't, or do limit people's speaking time.
right,
Yeah,
So
one thing I
Done a good job traditionally, but we should do a better job of it.
yeah.
So basically, what Jeremy's asking is, they have 4 questions. Do we want to limit the answer to the questions to a certain time frame? Is that what we're-
We could say a minute time restrictions, we could strike without any time restrictions and just say, at most, I don't know, 2 minutes.
One thing I proposed via email, if you may recall, Sandy liked the idea, like a total speaking time of no more than 5 minutes in total.
Okay.
Per speaker.
That sounds right.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah,
That's good.
we were doing this back and forth on the
Yeah.
weekend,
Okay.
okay,
So that way it'd be easier for someone like Harry so he starts at 2 minutes, and then the questions and comments part is 3 minutes basically at most.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
I can share in the chat, the high, basically it's the end of that sentence. Get rid of without any time restrictions for a total time restriction of 5 minutes.
Right,
Okay.
Okay, so
Perfect.
this will
Yeah.
get struck out,
Okay.
right.
that addition in there.
And then for B, I know some people raised concerns about the current, so this is linked to our current online form, which does ask for an address. It doesn't say we have to ask for an address, but since the inception of that form online, we've always asked for that. And
Is that really
there's
necessary?
reasons.
Is that really necessary? I mean,
I think it is. I mean, I would argue that it is. And if you want me to
Well,
explain why, I can, but it's.
Right, I
it's up
think
to you,
Jeremy
the
was
committee.
trying to get to the point that, if you have the address, you know if they're a constituent within the community board.
yeah.
That
You
would,
know that off the bat, though, sometimes no. I mean,
But how do
it's-
we verify that? 'Cause
Yeah, you have-
anybody, I could go to a CBO 10 meeting and put that I live somewhere on East Tremont, how are they
Yeah.
gonna verify that?
Right.
We're not gonna check.
Yeah, but at least I know when you fill out the form, at least I know if you're actually concerned about, sometimes people, they think they're calling Manhattan CB11 or they're requesting to speak at Manhattan CB11. I mean, it's
How
more or
often
less
is that?
likely with the registration slip, but in some ways and because ultimately, like Ryan said, it's about their issue and getting a resolution to their issue. And so, and the other idea I proposed over the weekend was that we should prioritize our constituents, and it helps to know if they're a constituent. Not to say that, whoever signs up to speak, for the most part, gets to speak.
Well, you can also say, I mean, without giving the address, you could just say that, do you live or work in
Yeah.
Community Board 11? You could just write that, do you live and work? And then they would probably answer truthfully.
yeah, living, so you're not
Yeah.
giving the address, some people may be apprehensive
Yeah.
about
About
doing
having
that.
that.
I mean, I personally am not a fan of, if I go to a public meeting of having,
address.
having my address out there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right, I put down CB11 member, board member.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So we could just keep it like that and hopefully they'll be truthful. I mean, if they have an issue, obviously the subject matter is gonna deal with Community Board 11. They're gonna talk about, the addresses and the things that, I need a stop sign here. It's gonna be about Community Board 11.
And putting in the subject matter they want to talk about and having some time, like we know that it is
They're like,
relevant.
oh, no, this is not, no, Park Avenue, no.
Right.
And I think, Ryan, I think you have brought it up in the emails, there are people that just happen to frequent a certain area and they have concerns, they may not live here, they may not work
That's
here,
correct.
but they've identified a concern that they wanted to bring to the board. They should be allowed to speak too, we shouldn't have
A
to.
dangerous situation or something. that-
Right.
Like stop signs.
Yeah.
If they're allowed, so you guys, if you're going for a registration requirement, then, okay, that's more acceptable to me because I can recall this one time a person signed up to speak about everything. And so I had to call them and to figure out exactly what they wanted to talk about. So as long as there's like a registration requirement, I can help weed that stuff out. But if it's not, then it's gonna, it's whatever at the meeting,
Well, how often does that happen, though, that they're gonna speak about everything? They usually put down a subject.
Well, we've had more than one person sign up and it's clear that they didn't know what they were signed up to speak about.
Maybe they just wanted their 15 seconds of fame. That's about it.
Excuse me, can I say?
No, wait, when we have the gallery
Oh,
session.
sorry.
She's part of the board though.
Yeah, but she is part of it, so that would be okay. All right,
That's up to you.
all right, go ahead.
The question about the registration slip, on the registration slip, does it say what they're able to talk about? Is there something on it? So let's just say they want to talk about that building on Colden Avenue. Does it say that they could,
topic.
topic about it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, topic on it, all right. Just
Yeah.
wanted to know.
I'm only saying this
Sorry.
because we're getting close to.
Yeah, we are getting close. All
I'd
right,
like to be heard on this issue.
go ahead.
Yes.
I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding about about this proposed change. I proposed this change at the full board meeting. I didn't propose it so that it could come here and then you could pretend as if I didn't say anything and then change it into whatever you wanted it to be. I proposed it very specifically to preserve the right of the public to fill out a gallery slip at the beginning of each full board meeting. When I said that, if we had gone to a vote, it would have passed. And the community board would not have cared what this committee thought about it. So I would like an up or down vote on the proposal that I made and have it go for a full board vote.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Ryan.
that any bylaw amendment should be presented to the chair in
What?
writing.
Did, what?
Which I did.
Right.
I heard you say it. I didn't see it in
If
writing.
you would like me to do that, I will
just
do it.
didn't hear it.
So,
And
so
then
hold on,
we will
I
meet
may-
again next month.
David, if I may, so David asked at the full board meeting if it's good enough that we put it on the record that, that basically we obviate that writing part. And everybody agreed. I mean, in his defense.
Yeah, I don't remember the specifics. That's why I was
Yeah.
clarifying.
So,
Yeah.
David, what you want then is to put your proposal to the full board meeting in this month.
Yes,
Okay,
David, can I ask you just so everybody understands exactly what your wording was for the proposal so we can have it on the record there?
This is
that the gallery slips be available to the public immediately before each full board meeting. I don't know that that's the exact wording that should go into the bylaws.
But at least we get the idea.
Yes.
we get the idea.
And you had also said that people can speak on whatever they feel they need to address.
Yes, and if you're interested, I will tell you why. But if you don't have the time, then I won't discuss it.
I'd like to hear one.
I've served on this board for many, many years. The right of the public to speak at the beginning of each full board meeting is fundamental to the work of this board. This is an advisory body which has very limited authority to make changes to city regulation, laws, rules, but we do have the ability to have the public speak at our meetings. That's important. That's vital. That's central to what we do. And I can assure you that if we take that right away, the public will be heard, either by screaming at us or throwing things at us during the meeting. And I don't want to see that happen.
So having just joined the committee, I have a question. How did it go from David's proposal to what we're looking at now?
My entity, just imagine.
I
one-
second that. I second that question.
Anybody?
What's the question?
How
What's the
did,
question, V?
How did
how did
David,
we go from David's proposal of having a gallery slip available to the public immediately before the meeting to what we're looking at and discussing right now? I mean, I just joined the committee, so I don't know how this evolution happened, but I'm just curious as how everything got changed
I
around.
think some of it, if I'm not mistaken, goes back to the COVID era. And we were trying,
These changes are from November. They're carried over. We've been
yeah,
talking about
but
the
it's
36
hard.
hours goes back, but these changes come from.
From
so
back
that's
in
why
November.
That's what we're seeing.
Okay.
And then David's didn't get put into writing to be discussed today.
I'm guessing not.
Yeah, it
Yeah, I
seems
mean,
to,
I just put down a bullet point. I mean, sorry, David, that you had to be here to make that explicit.
Right. Okay.
I mean, that's really it. I mean, like,
that's the
yeah,
crux.
he made it very clear that they want the gallery slips, that he wants the gallery slips, but it's up to the committee and or the board to determine that, right? I mean, I know he's requesting an up or down vote, but that doesn't mean the board or the committee has to go with that, right? Right, David? Even though you're requesting it.
That's correct, but that will only lead to a proposed bylaw change as to the authority of the Bylaws Committee when a bylaw change is proposed. Right now, you have the ability to pass it through as an up or down vote. You can recommend changes, preferably with the person who has made the proposed change in the room. Like I have made an effort to be here when I've made proposed changes. But the meeting tonight, you acted as if I didn't even have anything to do with the proposal. You were all talking amongst yourselves as if I had given the issue over to you to do whatever you wanted. I served as the chair of this committee for a number of years, and I know that there are different ways to run the committee, and I respect that. And I know that there is a role for this committee to participate with the person who's proposing the changes, to compromise, to explain why it might be in conflict with with other provisions of the bylaws, with the city charter, but also with the norms of the board. And this rule, this right to speak at the gallery session is really a norm that you would be changing and breaking that has been around for over 50 years. And I really don't recommend that you make that change. And if the meetings go long because of that, that's what's supposed to happen.
Okay.
Sandy, may I?
Go ahead.
Just like to point out again, De'Ara mentioned it a few times. I said it as well. We're not making it so that people can't speak. People can still speak at the gallery. You sign up for the gallery, you come into the public hearing, you talk. We're not making it so people can't speak. We're trying to put some more structure around some of the speaking and make sure that people are presenting something that they have considered, trying to have considered thought, but we're not taking away people's ability to speak.
Let me address two examples. The example, Ryan, that you gave, I don't know how old your son is.
He's 6.
He's 6. We haven't had people who were that young speak at the board. We have had young people, teens, speak before the board. They have done so in a way that was difficult for them because they were addressing public speaking issues. They had to organize their thoughts so that they could speak before a body of adults. When that has happened, the board has listened intently. The board has often responded with a round of applause because it was very difficult for that person. It was an important learning experience. So I would not belittle that and say if a young person spoke before the board that there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I think it would be a good thing. The flip side is the other example. If 50 people came out and filled out gallery slips and said that they wanted to speak on one issue, that's their way of saying that issue is important. And if I were the chair of the board, and this is what previous chairs have done, is they would say each one of you has the right to speak for 2 minutes. And if it's all on the same issue, we will sit here and we will listen. We want to hear you. However, if you want to elect somebody in your group to speak on that same issue, we would be amenable to that as well. We would urge all the people who filled out the gallery slips to stand next to that person to give them support, because not everyone wants to speak publicly. And so you would have one person at the podium and you'd have 30 or 40 people next to them. And that would make it clear who supported a change on that issue. People were speaking respectfully and people were doing what they were supposed to be doing. There was not screaming and yelling and cursing. And we should preserve that right.
So I didn't mention my son's age on purpose because his age doesn't have anything to do with that. I mentioned the topic because the topic doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing, and we should have an idea of what people are going to talk about. I also haven't been talking about a large group of people speaking on the same thing. I'm not a huge fan of it, but if that many people want to sign up in advance and do it, that's fine. Or they can come to the public hearing and do it. Again, none of this precludes any of what you're describing. The teens could still sign up 36 hours in advance. They're well aware of how to sign up for things. They get homework that they have to do for the next day or the next week. They have projects that they do, right?
But I think
None
it
of
puts
it
the
precludes what
chair
you're
of the
offering.
board in a very difficult position if he or she has to decide this person can speak, that person can't speak. it could lead to arbitrary decisions, which would only blow back on the chair of the board, which is not what we're trying to do here.
Can I ask a quick question, David? If you want to finish, go ahead, David.
Go ahead. I'm happy to answer that question.
So I've just a few quick thoughts. I think that it is well within our right, and I think that it is actually healthy to talk about norms being changed, whether they've existed for 50 years, whether they've existed for a few years. I think this change has came about and has been discussed because it's a matter of efficiency and making sure that people come to meetings prepared to be able to answer people's questions. I don't think that is a bad thing for any of us who serve in this roles as volunteers. I also appreciate anyone coming to the meeting to make their voices be heard. But to me, it seems like we just agreed that if people want to be heard, that they can fill out those sheets and they can make their voices be heard during the public hearing. And I'm trying, I guess my question for you after I say my last point is, what is the difference between if it's a matter of having their voices be heard and they're speaking at the public hearing, why and how is that different from the work that we're doing here? And then the third point that I wanted to say is, I think we need to move on. We're either going to do the thing or we're not going to do the thing. I think as a board, as you said, we are elected to be here and hear the voices of the constituents within Community Board 11. I also strongly believe that there is other work for all of us to be doing. And if it's really about these slips and allowing people to talk because those slips are available, they are available based on what we just decided that we wanted to do or what people said that they thought was a good idea. I think asking 38 people to have a discussion about this, I'm not done, Ronnie. I think that is also unproductive, which is why it went to the Bylaws Committee. Having 38 opinions in a big room talking about this topic, we're never going to get anywhere, which is why it's in a smaller group.
I was in the room when I made the proposal. The full board, and there was a majority present, the full board was very interested to put this issue to rest and to vote to keep the gallery slips. They did not want to have an hour-long discussion about it. They wanted to preserve the right of the gallery slips.
Did we call that? We didn't call it.
I'm sorry?
I'll just ask Jeremy in the chat.
And to your previous point, why the gallery slips should be preserved and why that right should be preserved up until the meeting starts is that we need to look out for, we don't need to put up roadblocks for people and then for someone to come to a community board meeting and then say, well, oh, if only I'd known 3 days ago, I could speak at this meeting. Term limits are coming for all of us on this community board. And when they come from me, I'd like to know that if there's a community issue that I'd like to speak on, that I can come to the community board, fill out the gallery slips, have 2 minutes to speak on my issue, and to know that I've been able to participate in a way where some small part of government made it easy for me to do that, when every other part of government is making it difficult to do just about everything.
So if we're not putting up roadblocks and we're making sure that people can talk about whatever they want, why do we have a 2-minute limit? Why not let them speak for as long as they'd like?
Well, we need
to move on because we have another meeting that is scheduled that is being delayed.
So Dear has a question. I think I can try to answer. I mean, I don't know where the minutes are. I know Harriet was working on them. But in terms of what actually proceeded. So as far as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, David, Cynthia, at the last full board meeting, David asked that this is his bylaw proposal versus it being done in writing. It's done here in full public. This is what he wants proposed. And this is what he wants discussed at the Bylaws Committee. I mean, that's the gist of it, right? It didn't need to be an actual vote. It was just you were proposing a bylaw amendment. You wanted to ensure the gallery session slips. And that's versus, doing the writing. Like, I agree that you didn't need to submit it in writing. You did it in front of everybody. It was clear. Everybody agreed, right?
Right.
So that's the gist of it. Does that answer your question, dear?
I think so, but so the vote was to
So
come.
so hold on. The way the amendment process works is
Right.
you submit it in writing, then the board chair brings it up before everybody.
Right.
And then it's reviewed by the bylaws committee,
Right.
which is what's happening right now.
I think that's my so I thought we're doing exactly what it is it asked, and so I'm a little confused. Is it that you want the vote, David, to be then to go back to everyone for us after we make some clarity around the language?
I would appreciate an up or down vote on the proposal that I made without substantive changes to the proposal.
So at,
So
from us.
what I'm going to do then is bring it up at the full,
No, I think we'd have to vote on it. We have to
Yeah.
vote on it,
Yeah.
one way or the other.
I mean, we got both of them, right?
We
We've
have-
got,
And then we make a recommendation based on that. And then it goes into the bylaws.
After the full board
After the
votes on it.
full board
Right.
votes on it, I'm just saying, yeah.
So if, Sandy, if it's if it's okay with you, I think we get to gallery session so people can discuss strict 2 minute because
yeah,
we're running
because
over
we're
already.
running over and
And then we can,
hope-
But you have other issues on the agenda.
do we have more? I'm sorry.
yeah, we have the creation of the
Oh,
transformation
yeah,
committee
so then we have to keep
Which-
going.
has been brought up many times. Personally, I feel that it's something we're already doing and I don't think it's necessary to have this transformation committee and going over the whole bylaws and
It's very
making,
broad.
it's
very
too broad.
It's too
That's
broad.
my opinion.
Has to be more
It's always
specific
been-
than that.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so we can table that or,
Okay, we could table it
okay.
and the merging of the economic development and public safety, they voted it among themselves.
They're
May
okay
I,
with that.
may I say something on the transformation committee very quickly?
Sure.
I don't have an interest. I don't know the details of this issue. I do know that Naomi proposed it. I don't think it's fair to Naomi to table it when you could do an up or down vote and put it before the full board. I think that's what Naomi expected and anticipated when she made the recommendation, not for it to
And
sit
that's
in
what
this
it-
committee, never knowing when it's going to be pushed forward.
That's another good point. We can get it done. All right, so you're saying, but then what Jeremy will have to do is to repost all of what she said about the transformation committee, to put it on the website so that the full board or all the board members know
I
exactly.
can't speak for Naomi's proposal and what she wants put out there.
Right,
Cynthia's in a better position. I think she has all the information. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, I'm
Right.
just extending what I said on my issue to this issue.
so
Yeah.
what do you
With
think?
regards, for me, the transfer, to me, it felt like something redundant. It felt like the purpose of that committee is basically what's being addressed in bylaws, maybe even ethics to a point. And I think it requires, to me, it requires a lot more input from the committees themselves because it proposes a lot of procedural things for each committee that I think the committees should be dealing with, as opposed to the full board saying, this is a flow chart with how you're gonna, address the issues.
Sorry,
Right, because every committee may have
They're
different
Yeah.
different.
things within a flow chart.
Yeah, but I also think it's, it's
something-
her proposal, it's her vision, it's her idea. I think it's something that she should, bring
more
forth to the
specific
board,
about.
yeah.
But I think she's doing that by bringing it to this committee.
But
And
it's
that
But maybe-
it's
More forward.
specific. It's really not.
I have to leave.
Yep.
It's 7:30, so.
For me, it just wasn't fleshed out enough for me to say I'm behind it. See you later. Yeah, I'll defer to.
So we could then do the same thing or maybe make her aware that we would like her to discuss it at the full board meeting, exactly what she wants to do with the, or what the transformation committee is, and then have the full board vote up or down.
I would think
Because-
that would be fair, yeah.
That would be fair, so that's what we'll do.
But if Naomi asked for additional time, then maybe then take
We'll have
it
to give, yeah,
and then bring it back next
And
month.
ask her to come to the bylaws committee.
fine. But hopefully we can get it put to rest and get it done.
Okay,
Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And the merging of the economic development and public safety committees, they have already decided among themselves to do it. We would just have to
Right.
change the bylaws to say the two committees are now together and what their job will be,
yeah, both committees are in favor of merging into one.
right?
That would be fine, huh?
And they explained why at one point. Because they both, are gonna get information from the police on
Right.
certain
Both,
things.
both of us, both the
And-
committees involved, the 49 precinct, one for opinions on licenses, the other on public safety. We asked them to come to do a breakdown of the 28 days. So for us, it would just be a one-stop thing for the 49 precinct to come.
That's
and
what I was
announce
asking
everything.
at the last full board meeting, that this is apparently a friendly amendment. The two committees
Yeah.
are
Right,
amenable to it. I think if it were explained to the full board that way, I think you
Yeah.
probably pass.
so that, unless anybody has any other opinion on that, we can move on.
Move on.
Move on.
Okay.
All right,
Gallery
okay,
session.
Robin, press
Right,
the
it's
gallery
up to
session.
you if you want to start.
You want to start?
Let's go with the in-person.
Issue on first, must be because of Henry's.
All right, well,
Well, it's a matter of process, if we're gonna start in here or not.
So just being courteous.
okay,
Do you want
All
to
right,
start with the
Robert.
line?
please, yeah. Robert,
Oh, I have to
Unmute.
unmute him. Hold on. Good. Bob, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, couple of things, because I wasn't able to speak at the last full board meeting. Whereas the district manager said, text me, call me, email me, or drop me a line, and I'll mark you down for speaking to people.
I muted him because our conduct statement does not allow the spread of false information, and that's what's being spread right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cynthia.
So let us be clear. At the last leadership committee, Jeremy stepped away and he publicly said, I'm gonna step away for a moment, Veronica, you manage the
Yeah.
microphone or whatever. Mr. Press spoke. When he spoke, he said, and Jeremy, add me to the thing for the next meeting. Jeremy wasn't even on
The call.
the call at that point in time. At the full board meeting, Mr. Press came in, arguing that he was not on the agenda because he had asked to be added to the list, whatever. Mind you, this is a person who has known for a long time what the process is and will sometimes register 3 months in advance for a meeting. But I digress. The point is, he came in, he was upset about not being on the agenda. He was offered the opportunity there to fill out a gallery slip. Because if it was our mistake that he wasn't on the agenda, let's rectify it. He was given the opportunity. He was given the opportunity to fill out a gallery slip. I had the people at the front, Debbie and Harriet, who came to me and said, we asked him to fill out the gallery slip because of A, B, or C, and he is refusing. What do we do? If he refused to fill out the gallery slip, I'm sorry, you can't speak. That's it. End of story. So this narrative about not being allowed to speak, he was given the opportunity to fill out a gallery slip and opted not to. That's all there is to it.
So shall I unmute or request an unmute? for
Yeah,
Mr.
just a
Press?
reminder, I'm gonna keep time. We're going
Yeah,
with a
because-
hard 2 minutes. So go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, and I think after this action is made that we didn't allow them to speak, and I went back and I reviewed the tape, I don't even think they gave us the issue they were gonna speak about. I could be wrong about that. That is a requirement too.
All right, go ahead.
All right,
unmute
Bob.
them.
As I was about, well, I'll stop and not say anything more about that. But items get added to the agenda at the last minute. As one time I spoke about a liquor license in Board 12 that Community Board 11 was going to speak to. That was added at the last minute. Now, at the Economic Development Committee meeting, there was no quorum, and the chair asked, Jeremy, what do we do? We have 12 members and only 6 are here. The answer was, since there is one member who's on 2 committees, they can vote twice. So the chair said, well, we're going to use Jeremy's rule and vote on the liquor licenses. And they voted on the liquor license.
No, I muted him again.
Jeremy,
Stop it.
Jeremy, let him speak and we will address it afterwards.
Well, I'm leaving the meeting because I'm not going to allow the spread of false information.
Exactly what you're talking about, and I will address it, but let him speak, please, because we're running out of time.
Right. I know, but we're not supposed to allow the dissemination of false information, which is what's being distributed. It's not my rule. It's not my, this is my name here. All right? I'm leaving. So you can unmute him. You can request to unmute him.
Thank you, Jeremy. Go ahead, Bob.
I said that it was the chair of the committee that said we're going to be using said rule. Okay. But there was also one member who was absent, who was on 2 committees, which then meant there was no quorum. Okay. I looked it up later and saw it. Now, that's what I wanted to say to the board at the full board meeting, which I wasn't allowed to speak. And because you then voted on liquor licenses when you didn't have a quorum, and it should have been brought up from the floor as a side. We have to bring this up from the floor because we didn't have a quorum, and the board had a vote to allow it to be brought up from quorum. And again, I know this from being on a board for many years, like David. There are certain procedures that have to be done when you don't do things right. And unfortunately, this board is having problems doing things right.
30 seconds, Bob.
Whether it's the inexperience of certain members or that, I don't know why, but I have to bring these things up, and that's all I'm going to say. All right, I'm sorry if your district manager is upset. It's his rules.
Like 30 seconds.
Okay, just to address one thing, the person did not vote twice. They were counted for quorum twice. We do not vote twice, anybody, for anything. You have 1 vote per person. We do not put in as 2 votes. So just as so you know, that's how it is. There was no voting twice for anybody. Okay.
Madam Chair, can I respond to you? Because you had another member who was absent, so you didn't have a quorum. That person should have been counted twice also then, as towards a quorum. So you didn't have one.
Well, that's something that we could take away and discuss to see if that's something we need to take into consideration going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else online?
Anybody else? Anybody else here?
There's someone online.
Who? That was Robert.
Mr. Muniz, do you have anything to speak on?
Guess not.
Oh, wait, I may have to ask him to unmute. Okay, Mr. Muniz, if you have anything, you can unmute.
Hi, good afternoon. I just want to make it brief because I'm out of town and stuff and everything. I wanted to ask whether you guys voted or made a decision on the 36-hour rules that and signing in at the actual meeting before the meeting starts.
Right, he's gonna, well,
You just have to answer.
we've already discussed it. We are going to put everything before the full board and let them make the choice.
Okay, great. I just wanted to, again, I'm out of town. I logged in very late. I'm having some personal family stuff and everything, so I was not able to, log in earlier to give my 2 cents.
No problem. Is there anybody else? Because I'm supposed to have another.
It's not our fault we ran the meeting.
Okay, Roxanne, hold on. Okay, is that all, Mr. Muniz?
Yes, for now, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll send an email to later on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Herb, do you have anything you want to say? I sent him a request.
He's still muted. Herb? Hello?
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to, keep up the good job. Thank you, Herb. Roxanne?
30-second word.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to say, I'm very shameful how new community board members who never been in any board members till they were appointed to this board, we don't understand how this board works. And I'd like to thank Mr. Lev for giving some brief history of based on his tenure here. But I have attended board meetings for over 10 years. I like to say that first, it's very usual for board members to come to meetings unprepared, like here, not reading the agenda in time, not reading what the bylaw says, not even remembering what the last full board meeting said, no minutes provided. And you want us to be prepared when you guys are not even prepared to begin with? Secondly, this is so shameful to create roadblocks, being spearheaded by one board member, directed by this manager because he doesn't want criticism. But you're not gonna block me from criticizing you. What you're gonna do is backlash on your own reputation. Because I could sign 2 years in advance for your full board meetings if I wanted to. But I'm here not because for myself, for the community to be able to, I can walk into my board anytime I want and have and speak at the full board meeting, and to make mockery that they talk about Pokemon, what may not be important to you regarding a fire, a stoplight, speeding. That's important to them. It has impact on their life, but he's comparing to Pokemon, to a 6-year-old child. That's disrespect to the community, to minimize what people are saying at the board. The fact that they took time to be at the board meeting, time for their life, for their family, for the work, and you're making mockery of them, shame on you. Lastly, I like to say, the agenda, like Mr. Balper said, things have changed at the last minute.
30 seconds.
And also, this is going to be more harm to you than to me. If you want to harm me, you're not harming, you're harming yourself, because I guarantee you, I'll make sure everybody knows what you do at this bylaws committee. And this democratic to make the full board decide if they want 36 hours, not for 4 people here to decide to vote on it or not. It's best for the full board to decide how they want the board to be run. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Ronnie?
So, Roger, who was living next door to the clinic they wanted to open up, called me the day before the meeting. What can we do? He takes me down to Mrs. Casey's house. She's 93 years old. Her getting in touch with you guys days in advance ain't happening. And she came with her 90-year-old friend, and we spoke down at the Lubin Center. Okay. So then Jeremy said he'd look into it. We'll do them up. So then we come to the next meeting that you had at Palmer Parkway. Question comes up again, and what does Jeremy say? Oh, we're going to look into it. So he had 30 days to look into it, and now he's saying again he has to look into it. The guy that left, he said, oh, the community board doesn't need to hear about stop signs. What is the community board for? You missed it. He said, oh, what are we going to vote about stop signs? That's what the community board is for. When people have an agenda, I mean, or like you said, safety. You want to have a stop sign put up somewhere? Where do you go? Oh, you go to the transit meeting, you come to the full community board because they don't know about these other meetings. But like I said, Mrs. Casey had no, she lives there in Colton. The building is being sold. Whatever happened, that clinic isn't going in. They had a problem getting their opioid license because they really didn't know how to handle it. So anyway, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would like to respond just momentarily. Just so you know, in those 30 days between one meeting and the next where that facility was discussed, we were in active conversation with DOB, Department of Health, to see if they were fulfilling the requirements that they needed to fulfill on their end. So I just want to make sure that it's clarified for the record. It's not that Jeremy, it's not that people came and like we didn't listen. I have the emails, I just want to, phone calls were made. We were trying to get to the bottom of this. We were trying to clarify whether or not the proper permits were in place, whether or not they, had their certification from the Department of Health. That was happening. So I just want to.
But that's not what Jeremy said last
Said
week.
that not much they could do.
Right.
Correct. There wasn't. There was.
Yeah, for the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We can
But
only.
it's a small building, and so far it's not happening.
Patricia, do you have anything?
Okay.
Dear raised his hand.
Do you have any?
I don't have anything. I have.
Go to that's
Okay. Pierre?
Dear, is that you?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Cynthia, for providing that context of the work that has happened in the month in between. I figured some conversations was happening with folks, but thanks for just letting us all know that. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, so motions.
We have to make, we want to vote on the motions. Veronica, do you want to read them, please?
So first motion is to accept the amendments for Article 5, Section 3. Get to it, sorry, so everybody can see what we're talking about.
Section 3, Article 5. Section.
Article 5, Section 3. So here, so we're changing the grammatical phrase from chairperson to chair in a few several places. Adding committee to the sentence, standing committee shall meet only when they have business to do or when the committee chair of or executive board determines there is a need to discuss items of importance. So the motion is to accept the amendments to Article 5, Section 3 as proposed.
Second, Dier.
Good.
Any discussion? Okay, all those opposed? Amendments?
All those in
I
favor?
mean, abstentions? Okay, no oppositions, no abstentions, passes.
Okay,
Just trying to save time.
and now we're up to Article 6.
Article 6, Section 13. Did we decide to vote on what?
We said,
What-
that's the
what
one where we're going to have a full board vote on David's proposal.
Right, so we have
For
to
that,
make
yeah.
a motion.
We have to make a motion, I make a motion that we have the full board vote on David's request for the full board to choose if they want the
They,
36-hour or the gallery to be
That's
available.
not what David was
I
about.
know, how did David say it?
So the motion is going to be to have the full board vote on David's request, which is gallery slips be available to the public immediately before the meeting. That's what,
Full board meeting.
Full
before
board
the full
meeting,
board meeting.
yeah.
Thank you, David. So that is David's request. So if we're gonna bring it to the board, that's what the motion should say.
Okay,
and then
Okay,
any questions?
so we have a second.
All right, I seconded, or Joanne.
Okay, so Joanne, any discussion? Any objections?
Wait, the discussion, a quick Veronica. So we're not even going to bring up the proposed changes that we talked about here by moving those slips or having the availability for people to speak during the public hearing. That's not going to be up for discussion.
As opposed to the chair, that's.
you know,
That
come to
was,
think of
that was
it,
gonna be
that-
up in,
yeah, but come to think of it, that was not proposed
Exactly.
to the
you didn't
chair.
propose that in the chair.
That is not, that change was not proposed to the chair. So that has to go, I think, to another meeting.
So the only thing that was properly put into process, that was agreed upon by the full board was David bringing it up at the full board. Cynthia agreed to it and now it's at bylaws. So that's the only thing that's really properly gone through. So that's the one we're voting on. A proposal has not actually been made to the chair from what my understanding for the other one. So the committee will send the notice to the chair, so that way she gets it, and then at the next meeting, we could vote on those, if that's okay with you, Sandy.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
last question, but it's also my understanding that as a committee, we don't necessarily have to take the recommendation of David and have it go up for a full up-down vote. We don't have to do that. We could agree it. We could literally agree to it right now that those are the changes that we're going to make to just squash all of this. We could do that, is my question.
But David wants it to
I
go
know-
to the full
Yes.
board and not
Yes,
leave
dear.
it up to, yes.
Yes, we could,
To just say it.
yeah, we could do that, dear, we could do that, but at David's request, he wants it brought up to the full board, so we are going to,
Leave it at that.
yeah, we're gonna respect his request and bring it to the full board.
For democracy,
But usually, yes, we could just, make a decision. here.
try it someday.
Roxanne, please,
Try it, but
thank you.
painful.
Thank you. So that's the motion, so. Any objections? Any abstentions?
I think, dear.
Yeah, I definitely. I objected.
You objected? Okay. So we have one objection, Motion passes.
Right.
Okay, the creation of the transformation committee. Did we decide to vote on that here?
We
or
said
do
that we were
request
going to
more
bring it up
information?
before the full board and give Naomi
Yeah,
a
now
chance
A chance to
to
expand
speak
on
or
it.
discuss or
Yeah.
explain what she really wants done.
Okay.
Although we realize that each committee has different procedures and, you know,
Well, that's maybe
And-
something to bring to our attention.
Yeah.
We might, you know.
Okay, so
Okay.
we're not gonna vote on it here. We'll vote on it at full board. May I
Correct.
make a suggestion?
And
Either you
I-
or Joanne,
Joanne,
either you or Joanne, reach out to Naomi and let her know that that's what we're going to be
Okay.
asking. So she is prepared, so that there's no issues
Okay.
when we ask her about it. And then the last is I make a motion that we change the bylaws to make the economic development and public safeties one committee.
Okay.
Do we have a
Second.
second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Any objections?
No.
Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, do we,
no.
Old
Any
business?
No,
no?
no,
New
Any new
business?
business?
no.
No.
Dear, you have any old or new business? No?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Seconds on, a board, a member of the public tried to reach the manager for the Yankee tickets. He called him every day to the day of the game and no response to his phone call or email. So let's just make sure that not everyone has access to this manager. Thank you.
Okay, that's something we can look into. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy, do you make a
I
motion to adjourn?
make a motion to adjourn this meeting. I'm sorry that the health committee will be delayed,
Okay,
but we will start within a minute or two. And I don't know if the speaker that was supposed to come is on board
well, let's
and that,
go find out.
right.
All right, bye everyone. The time is now 7:34. Meeting is over. See you at health. Bye.
Fine.
Is there a quorum for the health committee?
Well, Joanne, we have 4 here.
How many are on the committee?
No, you have 3. Remember, I'm not on.
No, but
I'm on the committee.
David,
David. needs-
Oh,
yeah,
David.
I am here.
We have a.
Hi, David.
I hope you
Okay.
can speak on this.
Let's get this.
Don't you worry about it. I'm gonna call them like Roxy says.
Please.